Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to Mark McGowan, a.k.a. the artist taxi driver. Mark, welcome back to the Keiser Report.
Hey, great to come back.
All right, now the big story, it's breaking, it's huge. This scandal involving David Cameron, allegedly, there's a photo circulating of him having sex with a dead pig. And isn't this a security risk? In other words, when Jeremy Corbyn came into power, the Conservatives very quickly said, this is a security risk. But if there's a photo floating around of this, it's for blackmail purposes. I would think that that is actually a real security risk, not a fake one that Cameron is talking about in terms of Jeremy Corbyn. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's stunning, isn't it? It's absolutely stunning.
You famously did something.
It's just gone smash like that, hasn't it? It's just gone. The prime. Just breathe and think about it. The Prime Minister of the entire country, the Queen's, Her Majesty, God save the Prime Minister, put his thing inside a dead pig's
Allegedly.
mouth. Allegedly.
According to who?
I think it's
Lord Ashcroft.
Lord Ashcroft has been told it by somebody, but you know, if you just for a moment think about what he put his thing.
I know, but Mark, is this really inconsistent with the temperament of Westminster?
Mouth.
Because in the past year,
the context of it is, at the same time, Jeremy Corbyn was fighting against apartheid. He was out marching. He was out protesting. There was 20 years they was outside South Africa House. This man was putting his thing inside a dead pig's mouth and talking about hanging Nelson Mandela, who was a terrorist. This is the context, because what they've been doing with Jeremy Corbyn is going back in time. This is a man of peace, a man who stood up against, he's standing up against war. You know, he's anti-nuclear, anti-trident, anti-war. He wants no more pointless wars, anti-austerity. You know, he wants free education, renationalising railways, energy, not-for-profit homes. They want to destroy him, you know, because he's even like this quantitative easing, we called it before, it's like a helicopter dropping money, you know, the famous quote. But to even suggest it, you know, someone said to me in Scotland, if Jeremy Corbyn was to get within 10% of implementing any of these policies, they would. The general yesterday, what did the general?
Yeah, let me put that in context. So first of all, Jeremy Corbyn, he's just recently been elected by a huge 60% mandate to lead the Labour Party. He was a 250-1 long shot just a few months ago. People finally have given up. They understand that this country has a bunch of inbred, kitty raping, pig sexing, Westminster career psychopaths, and they're worried now because they see the global economy about to crash. They see this global environmental degradation about to wash up on UK shores. They see the global debt markets about to explode, and they're thinking, do we really want a psychotic kitty rapists and pig fiddlers in number 10 Downing Street? They're saying maybe we should have somebody like a Jeremy Corbyn who seems to be, one, honest, 2, intelligent, and 3, forthright, unlike the current administration. Now, you mentioned this fella, a senior general, threatening a military coup in the United Kingdom if Jeremy Corbyn is elected prime minister. Now, here's the war machine. You made a film called The War Machine. No surprises then, I would think.
Well, I mean, we know, like, on the way here, I was listening, and there was refugees fleeing. They said, where are you from? They said, Iraq. BP, Reuters, it was out a couple of months ago, BP are extracting oil from Iraq in lieu of payments. We never get it on our news. In the middle of a war, people on fire, refugees, it's on our news every single day. BP are extracting oil. This is the war machine. This is what they're scared of. They're scared of interference because it's not foreign policy, Max. It's not foreign policy. It's economic policy. And people get confused by it because we go The BP's extracting 3 million barrels a day from the Ramallah oil field, from Basra. Everyone knows that word, Basra, but they're extracting the oil. That comes into our economy. You know, we pay, when we buy our petrol, that's our tax. We pay tax for that. That goes to build our schools and hospitals. That's imperialism. That's colonialism. That's what they're scared of. What they're actually saying is a fact.
Who's been the biggest player in the Mideast cutting these blood for oil deals? Who? Tony Blair.
Yeah, but
Tony Blair.
Yeah,
it was blood for oil, and now that
but what they're saying is a fact. What they're saying is a fact. You understand that? What the Tories, what the City of London is saying is a fact. Without debt, without destruction, without death, the global economy would collapse. It's built on it. Look at all the top the companies in the world: arms dealers, oil extraction, mineral extraction, banks. They all fund this. This is how the economy is driven.
I know it's quite humorous that the UK is, if not the biggest, but one of the biggest arms exporters in the world, responsible for genocides and mass murders around the world. And you have someone like a Piers Morgan, who's a disgraced chat show host from America, now back in the UK, who tries to get into American politics by talking about the gun culture in America, never commenting on the fact that his country is the biggest mass genocidal arms exporter psychopath in the world.
But we have to concentrate on that question of British values. You know, that's what this is about. When you talk about Corbyn versus Cameron, that's what this is about, isn't it? It's about morals. Where do we get our morals from? If we're extracting oil while a country is on fire, millions of refugees, if we're doing, where do we get our morals? If he's putting his thing inside a dead pig's mouth,
allegedly,
poor pig.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where do we get our morals from? Because what they're saying, because Jeremy Corbyn is a man of peace. No one can deny that. That's it. Whatever he's done as an MP, his primary purpose has been anti-war. So these warmongers, this war machine, the banks, oil, the arms, they want to destroy him. And what have they attacked the most? What have they attacked the most? His credibility as a security threat. You know, because what? Because he wants peace.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So NATO, he questions the role of NATO and how they were involved in Ukraine, for example. And now you famously, maybe not so famous, but should be famously, you interviewed actually the current Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, John McDonnell, as part of your film, The War Machine. And for those who haven't seen Mark McGowan's work, The Artist Taxi Driver, is readily available on YouTube. You are in your taxi and you're doing interviews with folks, and you've captured now some great interviews going forward, because a lot of these people are now, like John McDonnell, are now the Shadow Chancellor. So these are quite valuable journalistic documents that are now been recorded. So kudos for that. You also involved a couple of the Scottish MPs for the SNP that are now carving out
Mary Black, Chris Law, Tommy Shepherd.
What about so now, how do you think, the BBC is ignoring the story, presumably because they haven't gotten the word yet from the Queen what to say. They haven't gotten the script delivered yet at the BBC headquarters what to say about this scandal about David Cameron and Piggate, as it's being called. So you live in this country. What can we expect from the BBC? Will they try to discredit the people who brought the truth to the fore, or how will they play it? Because they're obviously very corrupt.
Well, I think one of the things is you have to know there is some sort of like history between Lord Ashcroft and David Cameron, and a lot of people say no, it's because he didn't give him a position in the coalition. It goes a bit deeper than that. It's to do with Peter Cruddas, who is the richest man in the City of London. He's Lord Ashcroft's best friend, and David Cameron it was a set-up, and he cash for honours. He said, £100,000, £200,000 for dinner with Cameron. So it's the whole thing about the Tories is it's imploding. But what you have to think about is ask yourself, how can you get a British electorate that would vote for a prime minister that will put his thing allegedly inside a pig's mouth over someone who was fighting against apartheid, over somebody who wants to build not-for-profit homes. Jeremy Corbyn wants to build not-for-profit homes. That scares them. Never mind quantitative easing. 28 billion every year goes in to private landlords. He wants to build not. David Cameron's got a home-owning democracy. You know, what about the poor people, the people that sweep the streets, the people that clean this building? If they don't come and clean the toilets in this building, Max, this building will not open. It will not open. Where are they supposed to live? Where are they supposed to live? Because we're in the middle of Southwark here, and they've been knocking down the Haygate, they knocked down the Aylesbury estate, and they, Boris Johnson and the Labour Council, they sold it to land lease. They sold it for something like 50 million, took them 44 million to clear the estate, and now it's worth 2 billion because they want the land. And the people's quantitative easing, you know, they're like, it wants a what? His idea is actually a little bit different from people's quantitative easing. He's talking about printing money, about taking money, which you can do, and build infrastructure, build schools, build hospitals, but we would ultimately own it. That's what he's talking about. It's a difference than giving it to private, let's remember, private corporations like banks. Banks were bailed out with money.
Just to be clear, Mark, you know, these assets don't go to private corporations. They go to foreign state public pension accounts.
There you go.
So if the French and the Germans are taking money every time you use the transportation system in the UK, it goes to a public sector pension account in Germany who's sitting on a beach somewhere laughing at you because they're the ones who are now getting the cash, not you, and your pensions are being destroyed through 0% interest rates and other fraud committed by Bank of England.
But they are scared of Jeremy Corbyn. They're scared of his policies because his policies make sense. His policies are about a more fair and more equal society.
Well, it's just like, I mean, Bernie Madoff eventually was taken down. He's a Ponzi scheme operator. They eventually took him down, and the whole thing folded like a house of cards. If, in fact, Jeremy Corbyn gains some traction and they go in and they examine this Ponzi scheme called the UK economy and they start to dismantle it, that means the housing bubble crashes, all four major banks become insolvent.
Yeah, but how do you get through to the electorate when you have tax evading billionaire media barons, or, you know, feeding them the most awful stuff?
Well, you have a state-sponsored media conglomerate, BBC, who is monopolizing the message and is the least impartial network in the world, and they cover for the war machine, the fraud machine, and the pedophile machine. That's their role. If there was any competition in this country in the media space other than Artist Taxi Driver, Keiser Report, something that had even greater distribution, the people would have a chance to make informed decisions. But right now they're making decisions based on a steady stream of pig slop that's being jammed down their throat like a foie gras farm, and then they take out their livers and they sell it to some foreign investor and they throw them into Pottersfield and urinate on them, and that's called David Cameron's Britain. All right, well, we're out of time. We gotta go. Any last word?
Well, I mean, I think the way forward for everybody is to start to realise that it's over for the Tories. Do you know what I mean?
All right, it's over for the Tories. Mark, thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report. That's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Mark McGowan, a.k.a. the Artist Taxi Driver. If you'd like to get in touch, tweet us at Keiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all.